Hi, my name is Leon Thomas, and welcome. Welcome to the new Biz Buzz Show, where we give folks that own businesses, operate businesses, or have businesses that are unique or are doing things to help the world, to help the society. We give them a chance to talk about that business and what they're doing right here on New Biz Buzz. Here we go. Good evening again. My name is Leon Thomas, and welcome to New Biz Buzz, where we talk to new business owners and give them an opportunity to spread a buzz about their biz. If you would like to be on New Biz Buzz, send me an email. My email address is leonthetrainer@gmail.com. Tonight, we have a very special guest. Tonight's guest is named Jackie Simmons. Jackie Simmons runs an organization called the Teen Suicide Prevention Society. Jackie, sounds like big time and important work. We're going to talk a lot about it, but thank you for being here. Thank you for being our guest on New Biz Buzz. We're looking forward to having a great talk with you.
Oh, thank you, Leon. It's fun to be here with you. There we go. All of a sudden, you reset. You look a
I
lot clearer.
reset. I look totally different now. Look at that. Did you say I look thinner? Just like that. All that exercise has just paid off instantly.
We love technology. Yeah.
Yes, we do. Jackie, thanks again for being here with us. So, the Teen Suicide Prevention Society.
Hmm.
Before we get into talking about w- how you started it, just give us the brief description of what you do and what the organization's goals are.
We believe in a time when suicide, especially teen suicide, will be a thing of the past. So we want people to imagine that. We know that to accomplish that, we can't be looking for signs. We're not focused on intervention. We're focused on pure prevention, getting the skills and the tools to people before they need them. Our mission, our mission is really simple. We train people to be suicide prevention advocates. Everybody needs an advocate in their corner. And a suicide prevention advocate is someone who's trained to support your family in having the talk about suicide with your loved ones before you think they need it, which is really key. Before you think they need it. And this is important because what we're finding out is more and more the first sign that your loved one, your teen, is in trouble is an attempt, and they don't all survive.
Mm. Now, when you say talk,
Mm.
that talk with your teen about suicide, what do you mean by that? When you say that talk, what's that mean?
The talk is what we developed at the Teen Suicide Prevention Society after we started working with parents and grandparents and aunts and uncles and teachers and youth group leaders and getting them to talk with the teens, getting the teens to talk. And what we discovered is nobody knows how to do this talk. I mean, we have talks with our kids about sex before they're pregnant. And we don't wait to talk to our kids about drugs until after they're in rehab. And we don't wait to talk to our kids about alcohol until after they've lost their license for drunk driving. But for some reason, and I was very guilty of this, we wait to talk about suicide until there are signs. You can't afford to wait, people.
Hmm. And I have two boys, ages 36 and 23. And I think about when you just said the talk. I remember having the talk about sex. I remember the talk about drugs. I remember the talk about finances, right? And debt and all those things. And as I look back on it, we did not have the suicide talk. We didn't
Nobody
have
did.
it.
Nobody did. There's this huge mythology that says, what if I put the idea in their head? I got news for you, and I can prove this. They already got the idea. They already know. According to the Center for Disease Control, knowing someone who's attempted or taken their own life by suicide puts you in a different risk factor. And I got news for everybody. We all know someone, thanks to media, we all know a talented chef, a gifted singer, a celebrity comedian. We're all at more risk now than we used to be because of the media, because all of these people who are icons in our world took their own lives. That gives tacit approval to your subconscious mind that it's an okay thing to do. Your kids already have this pre-programming. Oh, and they have their own language about suicide. You ever hear your kid talk about somebody who self-deleted? They mean they died. Oh, yeah, parents, they've got their code words the same way we had ours.
Mm-hmm.
Only theirs are deadly.
Wow, this is such important information. You know, when we first met and we talked last week, or week ago, whenever it was, you told me about what gave you the thought for having the Teen Suicide Prevention Society, and how it impacted you and gave you the concept, the idea of doing this. Share that story about what you went through and what brought it, to light to you. Go ahead and share it. Take a couple minutes and share that story with us, please. I think it's so important for everyone to hear this.
It was June 1995, the beginning of summer vacation. My three daughters were in high school and middle school. We were a stable, middle class American family. And the girls were getting ready for their summer visit with their dad and his family one state away. That meant shopping. My daughter Stephanie was 14 years old. She was in between her sisters, in between schools, and in between clothing sizes. Shopping became an adventure. Outfit after outfit, store after store, nothing fit her. And at the end of the day, we came home with nothing except an attitude. Stephanie headed straight upstairs to the bathroom. I collapsed on the sofa, grateful to be off my feet. Peace and quiet. And then, Mom, I think I need help. My eyes were drawn to Stephanie's left arm. Blood was dripping off her fingers onto the wood floor. The emotional part of my brain started screaming in terror at the sight of my bleeding, obviously suicidal child. The rational part of my brain started flipping through the files in my head, looking for the date of her last tetanus shot. I wrapped her in my arms, wrapped up her arm. We assessed the wounds, and they weren't life-threatening. Have you ever been panicky and calm at the same time?
Mm-hmm.
Bandages were applied, and we made a plan to visit the local teen mental health facility the next day. Our tears finally stopped. The mutual I'm sorries were shared, and Stephanie slept. I couldn't risk being away from her, so we were sleeping in the living room. And between us, her handwritten note, her promise not to harm herself again while I slept. Yeah, right, like I was going to close my eyes that night. I stared into the darkness all night, listened to her breathe, grateful she was alive. And my thoughts just swung. What just happened? How did this happen? Who's to blame? Leon, it had to be somebody's fault, right?
Mm-hmm.
After that night, counseling, therapy, medications, interventions, hospitalizations, and 13 more attempts. As long as Stephanie was getting professional help, I sold myself on the idea that we didn't need to talk about it. After all, why bring that up again? honestly. I was scared that I would put the idea back in her head. So I stayed silent for 23 years. And then on August the 3rd, 2019, Stephanie, now 37, breaks the silence. Leon, the morning of her talk was sunny and already hot. The hotel was on the outskirts of Sarasota, Florida. I walked into the conference room and greeted the 12 speakers that I'd trained to deliver messages that matter. The audience settled into their seats, and Leon, everything worked. The PowerPoint, the projector, the microphone, the videographer was there. Stephanie looked amazing. She had on a dark blouse and flowery skirt, and her hair was pulled back in combs. She was getting into that nervous, excited state you get into right before you give a talk. She was first up on the speakers roster. I am just super proud of my daughter. The lights dim. Everybody help me welcome Stephanie Ashton. Stephanie walked confidently to the front of the room and shook my hand. She started with 3,000 teens will attempt to take their own lives today, just in the US. In the back of the room, I'm shocked twice. First, because I had no idea the number is that high. And second, because I had no idea her topic was suicide. She continued with, when I was 14, after a bad day of shopping, I stood in my bathroom. The pain of not fitting into any clothes was just more proof that I didn't fit in anywhere. And that pain was more than I could bear. I took a razor and cut into my left arm, trying to end the pain and my life. In the back of the room, I go totally pale. I can just feel the blood drain from my face. Have you ever been hijacked by a bad memory? Only my 30 years of stress management training keeps me from just crawling into a corner and bawling. Stephanie kept talking. It wasn't my only attempt. There were others. Outside of professional help, I've never really talked about it. Not even with Mom. Mom and I had the other talks. We had the talk about sex and the talk about drugs, talk about alcohol. Then I went to college on a dry campus. That means the kegs were hidden in the showers of the girls' dorm. Mom and I had to talk about alcohol more than once. But we didn't talk about suicide. I still struggle with suicidal thoughts. In the back of the room, I went from pale to bone cold as I realized the struggles she had faced alone because I didn't have the courage to have the talk about suicide. Stephanie wound up her talk saying, along my suicide avoidant journey, I've learned tons of coping skills. Now I want to help teens learn these skills before they need them. Before they need them. There wasn't a dry eye in the house, including mine. Everybody stood up, gave Stephanie a standing ovation. Some rushed up and hugged her and thanked her for being so willing, so vulnerable, so brave. I was frozen in the back of the room, torn between pride for her bravery and guilt and shame for my cowardice. And Leon, then it hit me. 3,000 teens attempt to take their own lives every day. That means 6,000 parents every day start to live the guilt nightmare that I lived. That means over 20,000 grandparents, aunts, uncles, brothers, and sisters start to live the guilt nightmare. And Leon, that means over hundreds of thousands of classmates, teachers, boyfriends, girlfriends, neighbors start to live the guilt nightmare, all probably just as blindsided by it as I had been.
Mm-hmm.
And then I wondered, what if Stephanie was right? What if the key to stopping teen suicide was as simple as having the talk about suicide before you think they need it, before your kid starts to struggle with suicidal thoughts? This is so simple and obvious that professionals have tripped over it. Simple and obvious, like putting wheels on luggage or putting ketchup in squeezable bottles. Simple and obvious. After her talk, after that event, Stephanie, along with her sisters and me, we co-founded the Teen Suicide Prevention Society. We started teaching moms, dads, grandparents, teachers, brothers, sisters, friends, how to have the talk. And Leon, the talk, what we learned is that suicide prevention is not about intervention. And it's not about at-risk anybody. And it's not about looking for signs. It's about prevention, having the talk before you think they need it.
Mm-hmm.
And the talk has a short, science-based script. It's simple. It's 4 steps. And if we've got time, I will just lay them out for everybody.
Yeah, go ahead and tell us those 4 steps. Yeah.
All right, here we go. You invite your teen to have the talk. You plan it. It's a planned talk. So you say, hey, I want to talk about something important. Is now good or is after dinner better? You talk one-on-one, no tag teaming, no 2 parents and a kid, no parent and multiple kids, one-on-one. And you ask the question, have you heard about the rise in teen suicides? Yes or no question on purpose. Ask it that way and take a deep breath because the ride gets more interesting from here. The second question, again, ask it verbatim. Do you have a friend who's tried or died? It's a closed-ended question on purpose. Remember, this is a science-based script. It's designed to work with the way the teen brain really works. It's planned to show you where intervention is necessary. And it actually builds emotional resilience in both the teen and you. The third question, take a deep breath and ask, have you ever thought of leaving that way? Very neutral language, closed-ended question. And then ask the fourth question. Why stay? What are your reasons for staying? And this time, ask them to tell you what else. Tell me more. This causes the brain to break the pattern that they've had about what suicide means. Mm-hmm. And if they've had anything going on where they were getting close to the edge, this gives them a buffer. The more they share with you, and don't share your reasons for staying unless they ask. Let them do all the talking, because if they can hear their own voice giving the reasons for staying, you are literally walking them away from the edge in this conversation. It's a beautiful thing to watch.
Wow.
Now, here's the deal. If your kid has thoughts of leaving and has 0 reasons for staying, stay with them and dial 911. Oh, they'll hate you for it. And you just might save their life. Mm-hmm. Any other combination, you've got other choices. They've had thoughts of leaving. They've got reasons for staying. You may want to get them on the phone with the suicide hotline. Let them talk to a stranger. It's often easier to talk with a stranger than it is to talk with somebody who might know the possible players in our pain.
Yeah, yeah.
So that number is 988. In the United States, they've shortened it for us. Otherwise, it's 800-273-8255. I recommend everybody have that in their phone. I save it under help because you don't know whose life you're going to see.
What's the number again?
800-273-8255 or 988.
Okay, 988. Okay, great,
Mhm.
great. Jackie, this what I see happening with so many families, people in not just suicide, but in so many other areas, is that we are afraid to share what we've experienced for fear of what will someone think of us? What will they think of our family? What will they think of my child? Even in business, my business failed. Let me share why. Even that, we people just don't share. So first, I applaud your daughter, your family, and you for sharing your story, because you sharing your story and doing it in the way that you're doing now is saving lives, it's keeping families together, and it's preventing pain that those tentacles you talked about of grandmother, brother, sister, neighbors, friends, boyfriends. It's helping them not experience what others have experienced, as you've just described. So
Oh my God, the
I think
impact
it
is
is
huge.
so huge of how that's going to impact so many people. Here's a question I'd like you to talk about some, and that is, now those that number you gave of 3,000 a day, those are attempted suicides, right?
Before COVID,
Before COVID.
you
So
want to know
now,
something scary?
yeah, go ahead.
The Center for Disease Control released statistics in August this year, 2020.
Uh-huh.
So a year after I got the statistic of 3,000 a day, and they don't have real-time data that they release. They're 2 years behind usually, but last August they released this. 25% of American young adults are struggling with suicidal thoughts, and that's double what it was 2 years ago.
Oh, wow. And see, most folks aren't aware of this. Most folks don't know. The only time that, let's face it, that most families find out about suicide and get statistics on it is once they've experienced it,
It's the
right?
way
Once
I
that,
found out about it.
right? That's
Totally
the way
blindsided.
folks find out about it. Now, there's some resources and there's some ways for folks to get in touch with you, and resources that you have for them. And we've had some of those scrolling at the bottom. What I'd like you to do now, please, is first one we have scrolling now is the talkaboutsuicide.com. Please explain what that is.
I was asked to take a TEDx stage and to share this conversation. And the talkaboutsuicide.com is how you let us know that you want to know when TED releases my talk. It has
Okay.
not been released yet, so you can't go to TEDx.com and Google it or anything. So this is how you would get on the list, so we would notify you when that talk drops. And
Okay.
we want everybody to watch this talk, to
Perfect.
comment on it, and to please share it.
Hmm. That's
We've
the
got to
big one.
get ahead of
Share
that.
it.
Yeah.
Yes. Now, I'm going to post that everywhere because I
Oh,
think folks need to hear that. And I'm gonna just keep beating the net with it, right? I'm gonna do that because it's that important. The other website that we have is Emotional Teflon. Can you explain to us what that is? Emotionalteflon.com.
this is my go-to brain retraining tool that's scientifically proven to shift your mood, your attitude for 6 to 8 hours, and you only use it 3 minutes. 3 minutes will improve your optimism. I call it a source of perpetual optimism, and that site everybody can get it for free.
Okay. All right.
And so that's just the best thing. It's like a vision board on steroids. So it's a powerful source of perpetual optimism. And we could all use a little more of that.
Yes, absolutely. And how about advocatesforstaying.com?
Advocatesforstaying.com is where people can come into the advocate training program. And Leon, this is our signature course. It's a 6-week program. We imagine a world where there will be an advocate in every boardroom, an advocate in every classroom, and an advocate in every home. because everybody could use an advocate, and we believe everyone can be a better advocate. And this is also a donation based program, Leon. We will not turn anybody away for any reason. You want to know how to do this? We want to help you do this better.
Okay. And for folks that want to donate, where do they do it?
Teen Suicide Prevention Society.org.
Okay. And I'm gonna hammer that one away too, and I'm gonna ask producer Jay and I to work together and get that out there. Folks need to be aware, and that's what I think one of the big things you're doing is awareness. And it's um, I'm so still stuck on the term the talk. When you think about all the different talks we have with our children, right?
Mm-hmm.
And this is, I mean, I cannot remember a time in my children's education where a principal, a counselor, a teacher, whatever, in a PTA meeting or an individual meeting said, you guys need to have the talk. I can remember them saying you need to have the talk about drugs, you need to have to talk about sex, even sending permission slips home saying, do you want, is it okay if your kid's in the room when we have the sex talk? I
Mm-hmm.
don't remember anything about suicide prevention.
The stigma. So, the reason we focus on pure prevention, we focus on getting everyone this information before they think it's needed, because this gives stigma free solutions.
Hmm.
There's no risk of somebody saying, oh, because the stigma around anything to do with mental illness, anything to do with mental health, anything to do with asking for help. And let's face it, in many states, if you tell your doctor or you tell another licensed professional that you're struggling with suicidal thoughts, they have a mandatory requirement to report you, which means, and this happened to the director of the Institute of Suicide, the Suicide Institute in New York City, got a new primary care doctor, the director. He filled out his paperwork, and the nurse said, "Are you sure you want to answer this question that way?" And he said, "Well, I'm not going to lie." He got put in a wheelchair with two security guards and wheeled to the mental health wing of the hospital, where they were going to put him into what is called a 72-hour hold. This is the director of the Suicide Institute. He trains clinicians to have talks with people who are suicidal, because it's not necessarily well taught in the mental health industry. And the mental health industry is just plain overwhelmed right now anyway, because they were not prepared for the mental health tsunami that they are having to deal with. Luckily, a nurse who knew him saw him and said, "What are you doing here?" He
Yeah,
told her. And she's like, we're not having this.
yeah,
The reality is we're so afraid of a suicidal thought. And that's the problem, Leon. If you have a thought that you're afraid of, what do you try to do? Not think about it. You
yeah,
ever tried to not think about an elephant?
right.
People have a thought, they get afraid of it, like, I can't take this anymore. And that thought starts to hang around, and
Yeah,
they get scared.
yeah.
And then they try not to think about it, and they're doubling down on it. And then what they've done is set up a negative echo chamber. And
Hmm.
your subconscious mind pays attention to what's going on in your mind.
Hmm.
And it starts creating, this is the law of attraction in action. It starts creating plans and seeking opportunities to get you what you're thinking about.
Hmm.
For teenagers, this is a problem. They
Yeah.
don't have a pause button. You get subconscious plan crossing opportunity, and they're gone.
Hmm.
And there is no note,
Yeah.
because they were not consciously planning it.
Hmm.
And this is why
Jackie,
we have jump nets on bridges.
your work in this, I just cannot again tell you how impressed and thankful I am that you are doing this. This conversation, the work that you're doing, your TEDx talk, and congratulations on that. I can't wait to see it. And when that comes out, we're going to do everything. We're just going to put it everywhere because folks need to hear that. Thank you so much for sharing. on
Mhm.
something that's so important. Um, this is going to change lives, and that's one of the things we want to do at New Biz Buzz is talk about things that are relevant, people that are doing good things, businesses that are doing good things. But this one is far-reaching, right? It's not about Jackie Simmons, right? It's not about Leon Thomas. It's about others and being able to help in everything that's going on. So I want to make sure again we have all the websites. I want everyone to hear them. We have talkaboutsuicide.com,
The talk
the
about
talk
suicide.
about suicide.com. Thank you. Emotionalteflon.com, advocatesforstaying.com. And
Mhm.
folks, as you're looking at this, if you're listening to a recording of it, just play it back. Or if you don't want to play it back, send me an email at leonthetrainer@gmail, and I'll make sure you get that information. I'll make sure you get it. Jackie, we want to be your partner in this. If there's anything that we can do here to help spread the word, we will do it. I didn't say we'll see if. My commitment is we will. There's a complete difference there. Um, we want to help get this word out there. So thank you again. You're doing just tremendous work, and thank you for what you do. Thank you.
You're welcome, Leon. Thank you for inviting me.
My pleasure. Thanks for being here. Thanks for being a guest on New New Biz Buzz. If you have a business or know someone that has a business or is providing a service that more people need to hear about, just like Jackie's doing at the Teen Prevention Society, please contact us. We want to give them an opportunity to talk about what they're doing right here on New Biz Buzz. My name is Leon Thomas. Send me an email to leonthetrainer@gmail.com. Next week on our show, we have Dr. excuse me, Dr. Moses McCutcheon. And what
Oh,
Dr. McCutcheon does is talks to high school juniors and seniors about what the next steps are. Everyone doesn't need to go to college. College isn't for everyone, and he has a program that helps families figure that out. So look forward to having everyone with us next week. My name is Leon Thomas. Thanks again to our guest Jackie Simmons. Thanks to our producer Dr. J back in the studio. You've just watched another edition of New Biz Buzz. Here we go.